Hello everybody, today I am back behind the wheel of a Lotus. Always a lovely place to be. This is something I haven't really experienced before. It's an Esprit, and I have driven those, but this is a 1979 Esprit S2, and it belongs to young car enthusiast Callum Robinson, who's only 23, so he's far younger than the car that he's driving. He has brought another car to the channel. He had a Lotus Elan Plus 2. That I didn't get on with quite so well for a couple of reasons. Mostly, it didn't really fit in it. It's designed for fairly short people, and the Esprit is quite snug, but there is space in here. It's also a very different driving experience compared with the Elan. This feels dramatically more modern, and in fact, I would say this feels sort of nearly 1980s. Having recently sampled an Alfa Romeo Montreal that was in theory only about 5 years older than this, you can tell straight away the Esprit is a much more able car. You do sit pretty much on the floor in this. The driving position is absolutely amazing, really incredible. Gearbox, actually very nice. Lotus Esprit gearboxes get a really bad rap. Now I do believe this period of Esprit would have been using a Citroen/Maserati gearbox, same as you find I think in the SM. Somebody in the comments I'm sure will correct me if I am wrong. But it's quite nice. 5 speeds, fairly smooth. Second can be a little bit reluctant, but once you've found it, it's not too bad. You just got to be a bit firmer than you think trying to engage it. Visibility, actually very good by supercar standards. The engine here is a 2-litre, making probably around 150 horsepower. This car was picked up by Callum and his father at the tail end of last year, and they've been trying to enjoy it ever since. There wasn't actually that much wrong with it. It wasn't running quite right, but that was traced to an incorrectly set up carburettor. Steering, as you might expect for a Lotus, absolutely delicious. Regrettably, it has just rained, so I'm going to be taking extra caution with this car to start off with. I'm going to slowly feed the speed in and of course try and enjoy this car as Mr. Chapman would have intended. It's really comfortable, this thing. In fact, Callum's dad says that it's actually comfier than his Tesla. I can really believe that. It's an absolutely delightful thing. And let's be honest here, this interior, wow, it's so 70s, isn't it? Absolutely amazing. But I definitely grew up on a sofa made out of this stuff, that's for sure. Not exactly a fast car, this. It is pretty small. You can't really see much of that bonnet. And I'm driving it very gently right about now. I know Roger Becker wouldn't be particularly happy with me, but, you know, I want to take good care of this car because I know Callum is really in love with it. Now, if you do want to buy one of these, prices start from sort of at about £25,000. The early Esprit, the S1, is generally seen as the more desirable, as sometimes are the later turbo Esprits, the S3. There wasn't, I believe, a turbo S2. I think that was considered an S3. My Esprit knowledge is actually a little bit mixed. Brakes are okay. One never likes to make an assumption when it comes to old cars, especially when they've got tiny little tyres. You're going down a hill and it's wet out, so just being really careful. This dash, absolutely amazing. Just the layout is just so brilliant, but you've got everything you need to see. Got my temperatures, got my fuel, got my speed, got a rev counter. Engine is of Lotus's own design. It's a little twin cam. Oh yeah, it started in third there, which is why I was a little bit reluctant off the line. But actually, to drive, this is way easier than you would give it credit for. It genuinely feels just night and day different to the old Elan. Oh, you're miserable. So this car is currently missing some of its intake trumpets, although it has been set up and tuned to account for that. Quite responsive, as you might expect. These are fairly light cars. I think they weigh just over a ton or so. Obviously, with me in, it's a touch more. But they never were particularly powerful. They're more about handling. I'm looking forward to just trying to explore that just a little bit. In terms of steering feel, absolutely sensational. It does give you that feeling of just running your hands across the tarmac like the very best of cars do. Also, something to know if you're not familiar with cars of this period, you'll find the indicator stalks over on the right-hand side. And what I now consider to be the sort of Japanese placement, but is actually where all right-hand drive cars used to put their indicator stalks. I think it's the best place to put it. Pedals quite close together, as you might expect them to be. I do have some experience with these old Lotus, so I knew that was going to be the case. But weighting is all very easy, the clutch is very cooperative, brakes really nice. I didn't think this car would be anywhere near this easy to drive. Very cute little Philips radio down here. Not quite sure you could actually replace it with anything modern if you wanted to. The guys do happen to know a local chap called Mark, who is a bit of a specialist with these and actually daily drives a car just like this. There were only about 26 or so of these gold Esprit S2s ever made. Nowadays it's expected that only a handful still survive. They had quite a high attrition rate. They were for a very long time a fairly cheap car, people didn't really look after them. In the hands of an inexperienced driver, I'm sure quite easy to crash as well. But this is not at all the experience I thought it was going to be. And this is a good thing, because for quite some time, not very secretly, I will say, I have been lusting after a first generation turbo Esprit. Preferably one in white with black contrast bumpers and the red graphics on the side. That would be a piece of me. There's just something about that car that looks absolutely spot on. I think they're wondrous things. I have followed a few of them on the road, and when they're being pedalled by someone who knows the car, they're not slow. Really not at all. Unfortunately, one of the things that's always put me off buying that kind of car is the maintenance, because they are quite expensive to keep going. You see, these cars were not ever designed for the engine to come out easily, and there are quite a few scenarios where you would have to get to the engine, and that means lifting it out. That's expensive. In fact, it seemed whenever I spoke to anybody about maintaining an old Esprit, bills only ever seemed to arrive in multiples of £2,000. It's not particularly fast, but it does sound the business. And you know what? For a car like this, that's I think all I'd care about. Yeah, sure, if you want a fast one, you can get the turbo. It will be quite a bit quicker. It's also going to be more expensive to maintain, probably a bit more money to buy as well, etc, etc, etc. And for a lot of people, the performance is not something that especially bothers them. Because, let's be honest here, even a turbo Esprit is not a quick car by modern standards. At all. Now, I nearly came a cropper in the Elan last time round at this particular corner, so let's see how I get on with this. Oh no, this is really good. Yep, turned around nicely and easy, and where the Elan caught me out was the steering wheel is so big, your hand couldn't actually get all the way around it. So you kind of get stuck. I'm not sure if these indicators do self-cancel, and they're just lazy, or they don't, but it's something to bear in mind. In terms of the speed, or maybe the soundtrack, but in terms of the feel, the view, the way people look at you, this is the supercar experience. I'm also a bit disappointed, and I have to apologise, because I've used this road quite a bit before. It's never ever been this busy. Why it is today, I couldn't say. Tall people will certainly struggle in this car. I'm quite friendly with Mike Kimberley, who was CEO of Lotus for quite some time and worked there when the Esprit was in development. And the Esprit, I believe, was actually more of sort of Colin's pet project rather than anything else. And one year Mike went on holiday. When he left, he fit in the Esprit. When he came back at 6'4", he found that he didn't. While he'd been away, Colin had shaved a few inches out of the wheelbase of the Esprit. Colin still fit just fine. Mike didn't. Crazy too to think that this car survived until 2004 in one way, shape or another. Absolutely mad. A testament really to the quality of the original engineering, and it's a very simple design. You've got a steel backbone chassis, forms sort of an X essentially, and then on top of that you have a fiberglass body. The two parts individually fairly weak, but combined actually quite strong. Unfortunately, it does appear to have a bit of a sticky throttle, which we need to look into. So I am going to cut this review perhaps a little shorter than I would want to. Also, traffic, weather, all that seems to have combined to create a bit of a perfect storm today. I don't know what's going on. Normally this would be a road we got more or less to ourselves, so I do apologise about that. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's brief little look at a very, very different car. If you happen to have an old Esprit, anything sort of Giugiaro shape in particular, especially a turbo, and you would like to see it on the channel, please do get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to hit the like button, comment down below, and certainly subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.